if you want this organization to run in your absence, then you have to embrace governance.
The same thing about life and marriage. Imagine you're married and you have no people above you you fear.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Fiona Wall. I'm the Executive Director of the Fidelis Leadership Institute, and I am very happy to bring to you the Rent Aboard podcast, brought to you by ACLAIM Africa Limited. ACLAIM Africa Limited is a leadership and management consulting firm, incorporated as a limited liability company in 1995, and the vision of ACLAIM is to see thriving organizations. They have come up with an initiative called Rent Aboard, and we are here to discuss it. The mandate of ACLAIM is to address the leadership and management challenges in Africa through consulting, training, and outsourcing. So as we speak today, we're going to have a fantastic conversation about governance and the governance crisis in Africa, especially for the sector that is holding together our GDPs, and that is the SME sector. In the SME sector, we've had some issues to do with governance, and many of the SMEs that we have right now that are literally holding together our economies, because that's about 70% of our GDP, it comes from SMEs. We realize that most of them are either are led by families, family-led organizations. They start as single-member companies. Some of them start casually. I think the problem with Africa is that much as we have a lot of innovations, and we have, Uganda is one of the most entrepreneurial countries with companies just mushrooming up everywhere. The issue is how they start, the foundation, the governance, and the sustainability. That's why a lot of them don't even see their first birthday. So we are here to look at, to do a bit of a post-mortem of those that are gone. But those that are still with us need to figure out how to do things right. And we've also seen changes in the law. The lawman is also looking at these SMEs. The taxman is looking at these SMEs. How do they survive in an increasingly over-regulating environment? How do they survive where capital and resources are limited? How do they survive where the bottom line is a moving target? With me are two experts. We have Nelson and Allan with me, two handsome gentlemen that have been involved with SMEs for a while. I'd like to ask them to introduce themselves, and then we shall proceed with this conversation. Allan.
Thank you. My name is Allan Tayebwa. I work with a company called Goldmine Finance, and we've been here now for 14 years. This year in August, we make 14 years. So we've dealt, we've been, you know, we're an SME for all it takes.
Do you still consider yourself an SME?
Yes, we're an SME for, you know. And I think we've grown through the different stages, I would like to say, of an SME.
Yes.
And yes, I think that's it.
Thank you, Allan. That's a great testimony.
Yes.
Yes?
My name is Nelson Nowahabwe. I work with ACLAIM Africa as the Deputy Managing Director. And my journey with SMEs, I think, dates as far back as 2007. So we've been, I think, close to 18, I think about 18 or so years, working with SMEs in different forms, from a consulting perspective, but also helping them to work through the governance challenges. And I have had the privilege to chair quite a number of boards of SMEs, and also serve on the boards of some of these SMEs.
Excellent. So I'll start with Allan. Since you're here and you have a bit of a success story, when you hear the word governance, what's governance to you, and what's that looked like as a journey in the story of your institution?
Yeah, so I think governance is basically accountability. That's how I look at governance. I think it's you trying to hold yourself accountable to a certain group of people. And that helps to create, the Bible says that in a multitude of counselors, there is safety, So the minute you have got a certain structure of people above you, you're literally surrendering your authority to them to supervise you. And I think for me, that's what governance is. And I think that helps to create stability in the organization, and it helps sort of allow you to be under someone. And you're not supreme, where we have supreme leader. You're not going to be the supreme, but you're sort of accountable, and you're under a certain level of authority that you have submitted yourself to.
Allan, you're saying many things that would be very uncomfortable for founders, even of big empires. Letting go of control.
Yes.
Being accountable.
Yes.
Submitting.
Yes.
Nelson, what does, you're saying many things, and all these lead to accountability, according to you. Nelson, what would be your take?
I don't think that my take differs significantly from what Allan just shared.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, when you look at these institutions, you see that institutions in general have quite a number of stakeholders. Because there are many stakeholders that are involved, you can talk about the customers, you can talk about the regulators, you can talk about the directors, the shareholders, the employees and all. Because of these different interests, there is likely to be personal interests versus the greater good in terms of the corporate objectives of the institution. And at some point, you need a system that helps you to check and control some of these different interests to ensure that there is balance, to ensure that the organization realizes its stated objective and mandate. And if you do not create this system that ensures there is control, ensures there is accountability, ensures that the organization is well directed towards its intended objectives, I think then you're likely to have challenges as an institution. Because as Allan mentioned, in absence of accountability, so many things can actually happen.
There's no safety.
There is absolutely no safety. So you want to be sure that there are systems that ensure there is control, there are checks, and everyone is being guided towards a certain direction that the institution would like to take.
I think as financial gentlemen, you're all circling around the issue. When you say, Allan talks about accountability, talks about submitting oneself, etc. And then you mention systems. And you mentioned the importance of control, of directing. So this is how organizations are controlled, directed. This is how they keep accountable. That is governance. But I think at the heart of that is the fact that organizations being run by human beings, to err is human, right?
Yeah.
So it is aimed at protecting the organization from our humanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah? I always say that governance is the salvation of companies.
Yes.
Yeah, the Bible says that Jesus came and raised the standard of the law, that it's not enough to look at a woman, to commit adultery. If you even look at her and have an evil thought. So I feel that governance also raises the standard.
Yeah.
That you don't have to steal to have committed an offense. If you do not report transparently, if you do not account, if you do not put the money in the right place, that is also a sin. And Jesus coveted his people and said, if you meet this standard that I'm raising, the law will never catch you. And I think the same stands for governance.
Yeah.
So this story of Goldmine Finance, without going into specifics, what are some of the challenges that SMEs face, first of all, with embracing governance, and then secondly, in the governance journey? And we're not going to, if you mention things, we won't say that's what happened with Goldmine, but in case you have some examples, they would be welcome.
Sharing, really.
Yeah.
I think I'll tell you, first of all, the biggest challenge that I notice in our sector is lack of knowledge. We don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
So because majority of us or majority of the people have never experienced any corporate governance, they've never worked in an environment where there is
any structured environment.
A structured environment. Yes. So we don't know. Okay? But secondly, we were very short-sighted as individuals. There are many people who are working to feed their families or feed their stomach. So people are largely working for their stomach. So even this whole concept of I have a company, I have a business, the end goal is to feed the stomach. The end goal is not anything outside the stomach. Now, the shock comes when you become successful. And successful is in sales, when your product is beginning to sell.
Oh, yeah.
Then now you begin to think, I have a company, right? I'm employing people. But you forget that a company is much more than that.
Yeah.
You're crippled as a company. You need to start walking. You're crawling. You're a baby. You're still in a baby. You may be fat as a baby. You may be having fat cheeks, but you're still a baby, right? So you may be in the baby phase for 15 years, for 20 years, but you're a baby. You're crawling.
And you don't know that you're a baby.
Right? So majority of these SMEs
ignorance.
Are very ignorant, number one. And when you're ignorant about something, you really expose yourself. And
it's bliss.
And imagine when you have money and you're ignorant, it worsens the situation. You understand? So because of that, personally, I think that majority of us lacked the right mentorship, that kind of mentorship.
Okay.
I had never worked in any organization like that. So my question was always, what happens when there is a board? What happens? What is that?
Yeah.
How does it work?
Are they going to take it away from me?
Right? Yeah. Precisely. And those were always my questions, by the way. Like I would always ask myself, what is a board? How does it operate? Okay, but then you notice that all these successful companies or individuals, there is always a structure and there is a board that is able to supervise over all these other people. And mentor, right? So that was actually...
you find your education and your mentorship under a board.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll tell you, that's why I like that scripture that in a multitude of counselors, there is safety. It just tells you that when you have counselors, you have counsel around you, whatever decision has been made,
it's safe.
It is safe. And that's then the right direction to take. So I think for me, in my easier diagnosis, I think ignorance and lack of mentorship the biggest challenge. Has been the biggest challenge. Because we've hardly had spaces where, maybe, because one, as a small company, you can't afford a board.
You can't.
What is this?
Or you think you can't afford.
You don't even know who to approach to put on your board. You don't know how do you select board members to go on your board. Those are always the challenges that even if you say you could afford, you're thinking, who do I put on my board? So I think for me, those were some of the challenges that I faced at that time. And somehow I sort of plugged into this kind of product. And that's how I got educated about most of the things that I know today. Yes.
So, Nelson, in your experience, you are the solution he's talking about. You're one of those organizations that are willing to educate, equip, and even help them get a board. So, in your experience, what are some of the consequences of this ignorance that Allan is speaking to?
Thank you. I think that... maybe to start with the other challenges, I think one of the other impediment is trust. The issue around trust and fear. I want to use both of them concurrently, even though they may not necessarily mean the same. But most of the people who start businesses, they fear that they might lose control. They fear that there could be dilution in terms of decision making. They fear that they could lose their power. They also fear that trade secrets.
Yeah.
That if I bring someone within my space, they are likely to take away what I'm building, and in the process, I might lose actually what I'm building. So there is a lot of issues to do with who do I trust, who do I confide in, And in most cases, and as we'll see, most cases they turn to family, they turn to relatives and people within their inner circles. And usually the challenge there is around the trust. The knowing that someone from outside who is competent can actually be able to come in and walk with you that journey. Now, getting to a point where you have that level of trust, I think that is where the challenge comes in from. And as Allan was saying, maybe it is an education challenge. It is a knowledge challenge. People need to be able to be educated enough so that they can realize that it is actually possible for you. There are even mechanisms that you can put in place to ensure that someone who comes to sit with you at the table, the information that they're able to generate stays within that boardroom, stays within that organization. But all that information perhaps is not yet available to these individuals. And I think for me, that might be the hindrance to the adoption of some of these governance products. But in terms of consequences, in terms of consequences, I think what we see, and we've seen this in a lot of reports, failure. The worst, the worst, maybe it's not the one that I should have started with, but the consequence of a governance failure really is a business failure. And how does this actually happen? Is that if this
I wanted to just add to the trust part which you talked about.
Sure.
You know, I wanted to address part of the elephant in the room. One of the biggest challenges that we have as SMEs when you're starting a business is tax management and planning. And that is what leads majorly, leave alone trade secrets.
So that's what they're worried
majority
about.
of the people have been, are just having 2 or 3 books of accounts. They really don't know the advantages of tax planning and compliance and, doing what is right.
And they're hiding their books.
And they're hiding. So they end up saying, if I bring in Fiona and she sees this thing,
she'll tell you
she's going to cause me problems. So I would rather remain here. You understand?
Yeah.
So that, for me, I believe that largely that is one of the biggest challenges in there.
Yeah.
And so I think that we need to be able to learn that you can actually thrive while being compliant.
Absolutely.
You understand? So if people actually learn that compliance is for the benefit of your organization, not to, because ideally the opposite is to kill your business even more.
You know, there's an African proverb that says that when a child cleans his hands, he can sit at the table of elders.
Yes.
And I think that when a company, you said something very important earlier. You said that most SMEs are not prepared for success. And I think when you get into governance and establish all these accountability mechanisms, you're preparing yourself for success. Because if you get an angel investor, the first thing they're going to look at is your governance. If you're going to get funding, the first thing they're going to look at is even, I've seen, I work in my other life, I work with the Chamber of Commerce. I do legal advisory, but I also do some work with Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association. I'm the vice chair. And one of the challenges we see is that people will even get orders. There's a lot of trust. So people say, oh, this is a woman-led organization where I'm giving you an order. I want 1,000. You sell tomatoes? I want 1,000 crates a month, And this woman will be overwhelmed. Because where is she going to get financing? Where is she going to get a letter of credit? She didn't even have a bank account. So I think an asset to governance would be to establish it so that you're ready for success.
Yes.
But these hindrances that we're talking about, the lack of trust. So I like where you said that they would flourish. Yes. It's actually a sort of a step to success. Yes. So we interrupted you. Please proceed.
So what I was saying is that, so really the ultimate is that the business could actually fail because of numerous bad decisions that are being made. And these decisions are being made because you're only one person.
Absolutely.
You lack diversity of thought. You lack diversity. You lack people to guide. You lack people to mentor you. And as a result, the worst that can happen is that your business can fail. But even before we come to failing, you are likely to get fined. Allan was talking about compliance. If your books are not in order, you're most likely to meet a regulator. You're most likely to meet the authorities that are most definitely likely to fine you. So in that way, you will lose money as an SME, and an organization that is just starting. One of the things that you want to avoid is to lose money to either a regulator or any money really. But it's so sad if you actually lose that money to a regulator, because that's the cost of compliance, as Allan was mentioning. The other element is, which you actually talked about, is access to finance. Most of these organizations, if you are not well organized, if you do not have a governance structure, you do not have a board, chances are that the bank is going to decline you. The financial institution is going to decline you. Allan is going to decline you. The first thing that he's going to ask you, who is on your board? Who are they? What is their credibility? Because then the credibility of the board is likely to reflect in the institution that you are actually trying to build. And that is a quick access to finance. Without it, without the governance structures, most definitely you will struggle with financing. And we know that financing is a very key component for most of the SMEs. So the consequence really is you don't put in place governance structures, you will not eat. You will not eat.
My pastor used to tell us that if you are going to marry a boy, they would advise the women, and you ask him if if there is anyone above him who he listens to. If there is none, run for your life. That's the same thing, the same concept you're talking about.
Absolutely.
The same thing about life and marriage. Imagine you're married and you have no people above you you fear. Meaning you are now like a dictator, a loose cannon, you understand? On both sides.
Absolutely.
So that's what governance is, even in a company.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And maybe the other thing, just to add to what Allan is saying, the other thing is that you're likely to be lonely. Most of these SMEs have maybe been started by that one individual. And you can't know it all.
No, you can't.
You can't say that in that moment when you're making that big decision, you're going to think, you're going to sleep over it, but it helps when you have a group of 5 people, 6 people seated and discussing this issue with you, giving you different perspectives. That helps you to clarify your thoughts, but also clarify your decision-making process. So if you're not able to have a board or a governance structure, you're most likely to have very bad decision. Okay. And I'm not saying that all the decisions that the leaders of SMEs make are always bad. But the chances of making a bad decision and then you learn from it are likely to be very high.
Learning by experience.
Learning by experience, absolutely.
So our time is fast spent. This has been a fantastic conversation, and we've really gone into the issues, the challenges, and the causes. So we've had a fantastic conversation about the challenges SMEs face in embracing governance, but also the challenges that result in not having a proper governance system. And with us has been Allan from Goldmine Finance, an SME that has a 14-year-old testimony of embracing governance and being sustained beyond their first birthday, and Nelson from ACLAIM Africa, who have a solution that we're talking about today. I'd just like to let the gentleman give us one last, if there was nothing else that people remembered today, what would you say that they take away? Why is governance important to SMEs?
Because we are selfish in nature, naturally, I believe governance is as important to the SME as a child outliving their parent. is important.
And no child wants to bury their
And no parent wants to bury their child.
Yes,
So
that's a
that
good
company is your child.
Yes.
So you don't want to bury it.
So get
the
godparents.
easiest way not to bury it, to let it die while you're still alive, is to get godparents in form of governance. That's what I would think.
Thank you very much. Governance is not just boards, right?
Yeah,
It's more.
it's more.
Why is it important?
It's very important, just like we said, for the sustainability of the institution. If you want this institution to grow beyond you, just like Allan is saying, if you want, in most cases, people who are leading are not very sure that if they are not around, this institution will continue to run.
Absolutely.
So if you want continuity, if you want this organization to run in your absence, then you have to embrace governance.
Yeah.
There is no any other solution that I can think of beyond governance, because it is that solution that actually helps your institution. Because again, like we say, if you want to go very far, you had better go with
Together.
together. So and that's the power. That's the power of governance. It brings many, and together we can be able to build a strong and very successful enterprise.
There is a strange fish that grows as large as the surrounding it is in. If you put it in a fish bowl, it will stay in here and it will be like this. If you put it in a lake, if you put it in a sea. So today with governance, Nelson and Allan are telling you that you have a choice. Are you going to be a little fish in a cup, in a glass bowl, or are you going to be a shark in the sea? That is up to you. How do you clean your hands? How do you remain accountable? How do you be sustainable? How do you ensure that your baby outlives you? It's been Fiona Wall on behalf of ACLAIM Africa, with fantastic people from Goldmine Finance and ACLAIM Africa Limited, Allan and Nelson. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day, and please embrace governance.